My name is Evelyn, a 41-year-old dedicated homemaker. Finds herself at the center of a family gathering that quickly turns uncomfortable. Peter, her husband, alongside their daughter Patricia, seems to misunderstand the value of Evelyn's role in the family, comparing her contribution to that of a parasite. This remark, made in front of relatives, ignites a series of reactions. The relatives, puzzled, watch as the situation unfolds. Patricia, oblivious to the tension, chuckles and compares being a homemaker to being jobless or directionless. Evelyn feels a surge of frustration. She had left her nursing career, a job she held before meeting Peter, at his request to become a full-time homemaker and care for Patricia, who was then just a young girl in elementary school. Peter's demeaning comments and Patricia's laughter add to her distress. Peter goes further, challenging Evelyn to leave her homemaker role and find a job, doubting her competence in a tone filled with disdain. Patricia finds humor in her father's harsh truth, exacerbating the situation. Fed up with the disrespect and undervaluation of her role, Evelyn declares she quits being a mother, leaving Peter and Patricia to face the consequences of their actions. Reflecting on her journey, Evelyn recalls her life before meeting Peter. She was a nurse, often finding it hard to date due to her job's demanding schedule, which included night shifts and working weekends. The hospital environment was competitive, and opportunities for romance seemed slim, pushing her to look outside her workplace for a relationship. When she met Peter, a sales professional in the cosmetics industry, things felt different. They could easily coordinate their schedules, as Peter also worked irregular hours, leading to numerous enjoyable dates. When Peter proposed, Evelyn was overjoyed, despite the surprise revelation of his previous marriage and his daughter Patricia. Agreeing to Peter's request, Evelyn left her nursing career behind to become a full-time homemaker, a decision that now, in light of the current disrespect, seems to weigh heavily on her. This story highlights the often underappreciated role of homemakers and the complexities of blended families, as well as the challenges faced by women who make sacrifices for their loved ones. Evelyn's journey into married life began with a heartfelt decision. Despite her deep passion for nursing, which she considered her true calling, she chose love over career, embracing a future with Peter with open arms. She envisioned a fulfilling married life ahead, cherishing the thought of being with the man she loved. Over a decade, Evelyn dedicated herself to supporting Peter and their daughter Patricia as a full-time homemaker. To the outside world, their family might have appeared picture-perfect, a close-knit trio residing in a cozy home with a welcoming yard, portraying the epitome of domestic bliss. Evelyn, embracing her role as a devoted wife and mother, and Peter, thriving in his career at a multinational corporation, seemed to weave the fabric of an ideal family life, bolstered by financial stability. However, the reality behind closed doors painted a starkly different picture. After their wedding, Peter's perception of Evelyn shifted dramatically. She felt reduced from a partner to a mere housekeeper, a change that cast a shadow over their relationship. One morning, a simple breakfast scenario unveiled the deeper cracks in their marriage. As Evelyn prepared a hearty meal of omelet, Greek salad, turkey bacon, and croissant, Peter's abrupt objection to turkey bacon, citing concerns over Patricia's weight, left Evelyn taken aback. His accusation that Evelyn's carelessness stemmed from Patricia not being her biological child was both shocking and hurtful. Peter's insistence on prioritizing Patricia's dietary preferences over reason, coupled with his sudden outburst and waste of food, highlighted a growing disrespect and disregard for Evelyn's efforts and feelings. The incident at breakfast was a vivid illustration of Peter's changed demeanor towards Evelyn, contrasting sharply with the warmth and affection he reserved for Patricia. Witnessing Peter's affectionate interactions with Patricia, while experiencing his coldness firsthand, Evelyn felt increasingly isolated within her own home. Peter's harsh words and Patricia's indifferent gaze further amplified her sense of solitude, making it clear that she had no allies in this household battle. Over the years, this dynamic worsened, with Patricia adopting an entitled attitude, leaving her chores for Evelyn to handle, and showing little respect for the work Evelyn did to maintain the home. A decade into their marriage, the situation remains challenging. Patricia, now a 21-year-old college student, continues to treat the home as a hotel, expecting Evelyn to clean up after her without so much as a word of thanks. The day's events, from Patricia's casual disregard for her, wet clothes to Peter's earlier, outbursts serve as a stark reminder of the thankless role Evelyn has been confined to. Despite her sacrifices and the love that led her to this point, Evelyn grapples with the realization that her efforts to create a loving home are met with indifference and, at times, outright disrespect. This narrative sheds light on the complexities and emotional toll of Evelyn's journey as a homemaker, challenging societal perceptions of domestic roles and the invisible labor that sustains them. Evelyn found herself grappling with an increasingly challenging home environment, marked by Patricia's dismissive attitude towards her efforts to maintain order. "Why don't you just handle it? You're the homemaker after all. You don't have anything else to do, right? You're always free," Patricia retorted with a laziness that cut deep, leaving a trail of her belongings scattered as she moved through the house with an air of entitlement. She then proceeded to drink directly from a 1-liter carton of juice, carelessly leaving it out instead of returning it to the fridge, a small yet telling sign of her disregard for the household norms Evelyn tried to uphold. As Peter arrived home, Patricia quickly turned the situation against Evelyn, claiming to be harassed, a manipulation that left Evelyn in disbelief. When Evelyn attempted to explain the simple request she had made of Patricia to place her clothes in the laundry basket, Peter's reaction was far from supportive. He dismissed Evelyn's efforts, suggesting that managing such household tasks should be well within her capabilities as a homemaker, labeling her as ineffectual for not catering to Patricia's whims. This exchange only exacerbated Evelyn's feelings of isolation and inadequacy. The expectation to preemptively cater to every need without so much as an acknowledgement, let alone appreciation, was suffocating. Peter's and Patricia's subsequent retreat to their rooms left Evelyn to contemplate her situation in solitude, her energy sapped by the constant belittlement and lack of empathy from her family. Patricia's mimicry of Peter's disdainful attitude towards Evelyn further eroded the fragile semblance of familial harmony, making any affection Evelyn might have felt for her stepdaughter increasingly difficult to muster. Despite her intentions to nurture Patricia as her own, the reciprocated contempt made it an uphill battle. Peter's affection was exclusively reserved for Patricia, leaving Evelyn to question her place and value within the family she had hoped to build. The announcement of an impending family gathering at Peter's mother's home, delivered with barely any notice, was the latest in a series of disregard for Evelyn's time and efforts. Peter's expectation for Evelyn to prepare for the event, despite the short notice and her plans, was delivered with a condescension that underscored his view of her role within the family, a homemaker with no obligations or priorities that could compete with his or Patricia's. In the face of these challenges, Evelyn managed to organize the necessary preparations for the family gathering. Upon their arrival, Peter's mother greeted them warmly, a stark contrast to the atmosphere Evelyn had grown accustomed to at home. Her kindness and offer of support provided a glimmer of solace in Evelyn's tumultuous home life. The longing for a confidant in Peter's mother was palpable, a beacon of hope for understanding and empathy amidst the ongoing struggles with Peter and Patricia's behavior. Evelyn, feeling a strong reluctance to burden Peter's mother with her troubles, chose to keep her struggles to herself during the family gathering. As relatives trickled in, the atmosphere was initially light and pleasant, with maki for everyone and conversations flowing as easily as the drinks. However, the mood shifted dramatically when Peter, slightly inebriated, made a jarring comment about Evelyn's role as a homemaker, crudely suggesting she was a financial burden without contributing to the workforce. His outburst caught everyone off guard, including his mother, who expressed concern and confusion at his sudden change in demeanor. Peter's brash declaration that homemakers were akin to parasites deeply wounded Evelyn. This contemptuous view, expressed in front of their family, starkly contrasted with the past when Peter had specifically requested Evelyn to quit her job as a nurse to care for Patricia and the household. The irony of Peter mocking Evelyn for a decision he had imposed was not lost on her, nor was hurt from being called incompetent after years of dedication to their home and family. As Peter's mother attempted to intervene, scolding Peter for his harsh words towards Evelyn, it was clear that his disrespect was not only directed at Evelyn, but was a sentiment shared and echoed by Patricia. Both seemed unaffected by the disapproval from the relatives, and Peter's mother, continuing their mockery with laughter, further isolating Evelyn in her hurt and frustration. In a moment of defiance, Evelyn announced her decision to quit her role as a mother, a statement that momentarily stunned Peter and Patricia. However, their reaction quickly turned to laughter, dismissing Evelyn's proclamation as ludicrous. This reaction only underscored the lack of respect and empathy they had shown her, making the painful dynamics within their family painfully clear. Peter's mother, witnessing the unfolding disrespect, was visibly upset and approached Evelyn to apologize, her concern evident. Yet, Peter and Patricia remained oblivious to the impact of their actions, continuing their derision without a hint of remorse. This persistent belittlement and disregard from her husband and stepdaughter led Evelyn to a breaking point, challenging the very foundation of their family dynamic and leaving Evelyn to contemplate her worth and place within a home that seemed to undervalue her sacrifices and love. In a family gathering that had soured, Evelyn faced the raw disdain from Peter and Patricia. Their words cut deep, ridiculing her for being out of the workforce for a decade, claiming society no longer had use for someone like her. Peter's scornful comments, paired with Patricia's cruel laughter about Evelyn's age and perceived lack of future, left her feeling deeply humiliated. For over 11 years, Evelyn had harbored the hope of nurturing a genuine family bond, driven by her love for Peter and the belief that she and Patricia could eventually connect as mother and daughter. But reality painted a harsh contrast, with Peter's demeaning attitude reducing Evelyn to nothing more than a housekeeper, and Patricia viewing her merely as a convenient caretaker, never as a mother. Despite Evelyn's dedicated efforts to embrace Patricia, attending every school event and preparing her favorite meals, her attempts were met with ingratitude. Both Peter and Patricia took her sacrifices for granted, never once offering thanks, instead insisting that her exhaustive efforts were merely expected duties of a homemaker. Faced with constant belittlement and undervaluation, Evelyn reached a breaking point. Unable to envision a future with individuals who failed to recognize her worth beyond menial tasks. Amidst the uncomfortable tension of the gathering, Evelyn's sudden rise to leave took everyone by surprise. Her declaration of quitting her role as a mother and severing ties with Peter and Patricia marked a pivotal moment in reclaiming her dignity and independence. Ignoring the confusion and concern of the relatives, she walked out, leaving a stunned Peter and Patricia scrambling to grasp the reality of her departure. Peter's and Patricia's reactions, focused solely on the inconvenience her absence would cause them, highlighted their selfish perspectives, concerned only with who would manage the household chores and cater to their needs. Evelyn's resolve to move forward, seeking refuge at her parents' home, was a powerful step towards freeing herself from a life of thankless servitude. At this moment, Evelyn chose her well-being and respect over remaining in a toxic environment that had long ceased to feel like home. Evelyn responded with a light-hearted yet firm farewell. "Well, since I'm just a parasite, I guess it's time for me to leave. Take care of things yourself for a change. Goodbye." She waved her hand dismissively and walked away, ignoring the shouts from Peter and Patricia that followed her exit. Determined not to let their manipulations affect her any longer, she decided it was time they faced the consequences of their actions and attitudes. Rushing back to the house they shared, Evelyn quickly gathered her most essential belongings. She had previously declared she wouldn't return, but she needed her clothes and a few personal items. Her possessions were modest, a reflection of Peter's reluctance to spend money on her, so packing was swift and simple. She dropped the house key in the mailbox, a symbolic gesture of her final departure. As she left, Peter bombarded her with calls and messages, pleading and demanding her return. But Evelyn was resolute. Her mind was made up. There was nothing left for her in that house or with Peter. She sought refuge at her parents' house, where she was met with warmth and concern, a stark contrast to the coldness she'd endured. Her parents' kindness almost brought her to tears, reinforcing her decision to leave Peter and Patricia behind. Settling into her parents' home, Evelyn found peace and the space to focus on herself. She began job hunting, applying to several positions that caught her interest. Before long, she received an interview invitation. Despite the anxiety of re-entering the workforce after a decade-long hiatus, she was determined to move forward. Ignoring continuous attempts from Peter and Patricia to contact her, she focused on her new path. Her resolve paid off when she secured a full-time nursing position. The challenge of overcoming an 11-year gap in her career was daunting, yet Evelyn was ready to embrace it. However, just as she was preparing for her new role, Peter and Patricia unexpectedly showed up at her parents' doorstep. Her mother, conflicted about how to handle the situation, relayed their presence to Evelyn. Facing the dilemma of dealing with Peter and Patricia without causing further distress to her parents, Evelyn approached the front door. Peter's plea to be let in due to the cold was met with Evelyn's firm refusal. She demanded they speak their piece quickly and outside. Peter's complaint that their home was in disarray without her only highlighted his refusal to take responsibility for his and Patricia's actions. Patricia's complaints echoed Peter's, blaming Evelyn for the mess and demanding her return to manage the household chores they had neglected in her absence. Evelyn stood her ground, unwilling to return to a life of thanklessness and servitude. This encounter at her parents' doorstep underscored the stark contrast between her past life with Peter and Patricia and her newfound independence. It reinforced her decision to move on and rebuild her life, grounded in self-respect and the support of her real family, her parents. Evelyn stood in disbelief as Peter and Patricia, now facing her at her parents' doorstep, seemed utterly oblivious to the chaos they had created at home. Their living room had become a dumping ground for dirty laundry, a testament to their negligence. Yet, Peter dared to declare laundry as Evelyn's responsibility, expecting her to return and clean up their mess. Patricia's laughter and mocking words only added insult to injury, suggesting that housework was all Evelyn was capable of. However, Evelyn was no longer the person they thought they could manipulate. She responded with composed defiance, announcing her decision to divorce Peter and informing him that a lawyer would be in touch. Peter's mocking retort about her supposed incompetence and Patricia's taunts about being jobless was met with Evelyn's calm revelation that she had already secured a new job. This news came as a shock to Peter and Patricia, who had underestimated her resolve and ability to stand on her own. Patricia, in a desperate attempt to maintain the status quo, argued that Evelyn couldn't simply stop being her mother, leveraging her status as a student to evoke sympathy. However, Evelyn, undeterred, clarified the reality of their relationship. Without any blood ties to Patricia, the divorce from Peter would legally and emotionally sever any familial connections between them. Evelyn's patience and affection had been conditional on mutual respect and love, neither of which Patricia had shown. As the conversation unfolded, Peter and Patricia's frustration and anger became palpable. They had assumed Evelyn would crumble without them, only to find her more determined and independent than ever. The realization that Evelyn would not be coerced back into servitude left them grappling with the consequences of their actions. With her final words of farewell, Evelyn made it clear that their paths would never cross again. Peter and Patricia, faced with the imminent divorce and the loss of Evelyn's support, were left to contend with the reality of their untenable living situation on their own. Evelyn, closing the door on this chapter of her life, stepped back into the warmth and safety of her parents' home, ready to embrace her newfound freedom and the opportunities that lay ahead. After deciding to end my marriage with Peter, the road to divorce was anything but straightforward. Peter was in denial initially, convinced that once I returned, life would revert to its previous state, with me resuming my role as the household caretaker. This was a notion I firmly rejected. Through my attorney, I made it clear that reconciliation was off the table and that his reluctance to agree to the divorce could result in legal proceedings. The threat of a court battle was enough to sway Peter, who, despite his initial resistance, eventually signed the divorce papers. Following our separation, Peter's life took a turn for the worse. He struggled with basic household tasks, notably laundry, leading to him wearing dirty clothes to work. This lack of personal hygiene did not go unnoticed at his job, resulting in several warnings from his superiors. Peter, who took great pride in himself, chose to resign rather than address the criticisms. His inability to maintain personal care also hindered his job search, as his appearance and odor were off-putting during interviews. Meanwhile, Patricia, despite being capable, neglected to take on any household responsibilities. The option to use coin-operated laundries or hire housekeepers was ignored, exacerbating their predicament. With Peter unemployed, financial difficulties loomed, threatening their ability to cover the mortgage and Patricia's college expenses. One day, Patricia reached out to me, her voice laced with desperation, painting a grim picture of their living situation and Peter's job loss. Despite feeling a twinge of disgust at their continued reliance on others, I reminded her that I was no longer part of their lives and suggested seeking help from her grandmother. I knew that my mother-in-law and other relatives, many of whom valued the role of homemakers, had distanced themselves due to Peter and Patricia's disdain for such responsibilities. I ended the call with a firm goodbye and took the step to block Patricia's number, severing the last ties to a chapter of my life I wished to leave behind. In the 4 years since the divorce, my life has undergone a remarkable transformation. 8 months ago, I married a colleague from the hospital where I work. Despite my initial skepticism about workplace romances, his genuine and proactive nature won me over. He's not only dedicated to his nursing career, but also fully capable of managing household duties. often surprising me with his culinary skills. His respectful and considerate approach, always valuing my input on matters like dinner plans, was a refreshing change from my past experiences with Peter. This new partnership has brought a deep sense of mutual support and understanding, making me optimistic about our future together. Despite the challenges that come with a nursing career, I am confident that together we can overcome any obstacle that comes our way.